So, hello there, and welcome back to another Night of the Movies podcast. I'm Spy Knight, and in these podcasts, I love talking all things movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, I'm continuing on with my Shrek film reviews, as I review Shrek Forever After, the fourth Shrek film. So, let's get into it, shall we? Shrek Forever After was the fourth Shrek film and was released in 2010, 9 years after the first Shrek film came out. And this Shrek film, Shrek Forever After, has many of the same voice cast from the previous films. You have Mike Myers returning to voice Shrek, Cameron Diaz returning to voice Fiona, Eddie Murphy returning to voice Donkey, Antonio Banderas returning to voice Puss in Boots, which is still genius voice casting for so many reasons. And you also have some new additions to the voice cast, such as John Hamm, who voices one of the members of the Ogre Army in this film, and I think his name is Walt Dawn, who voices Rumpelstiltskin in this film, the main villain. And I remember growing up watching this film a lot. I remember I used to try and convince myself that Shrek Forever After was a great film. I used to try and convince myself that because I loved the first three films so much growing up. I would watch them continuously, particularly Shrek the Third. I know it's got its problems, I don't love it quite as much as I did back then now, but Shrek the Third was a huge part of my childhood, as I spoke about it in my review of that film about a week ago now. But Shrek Forever After was also a huge part of my childhood. I watched it quite a lot of times because it was a final Shrek film, and every time I would rewatch it, I would get excited about rewatching it because I'd try to convince myself that I really enjoyed this film. But every time I finished it, I would always feel underwhelmed. I would always feel like, God, is that the end of the Shrek franchise? And it wasn't until about 10, maybe 12 years ago now, when I finally said to myself, you know what? Shrek Forever After isn't that good of a film, and maybe you need to give it a rest. And that's what, maybe you need to give it a rest watching it, because I don't know if it's good for you if you just keep watching the same film that you don't really like. If you don't enjoy a film, then I don't think you should watch it over and over again. But I wasn't really enjoying the film, and I was watching it over and over again at a much younger age. So I stopped watching it for quite a bit of time. I hadn't seen the film in about 10 years when I rewatched it earlier today. And I rewatched it with an open mind. I sat down to rewatch it, wanting to love it, thinking, you know what, maybe my mindset will be different now because I'm at an older age. Maybe more of the jokes will work for me, similar than what happened with the first Shrek. I hadn't seen the first Shrek in a lot of time until I watched it, until I rewatched it for the first time in a long time a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of the jokes really worked for me, and I ended up loving that film far more than I did when I was a kid. And I was thinking maybe the same thing is going to happen with Shrek Forever After. So I sat down to watch the film because I've been reviewing all the Shrek films on this channel at the moment, so I wanted to review this one as well. I sat down to watch it, not particularly looking forward to rewatching it, but hoping that I would find some enjoyment in it nonetheless. And after rewatching the film earlier today, here's what I'll say about Shrek Forever After. I still do not like this film. This is by far and away my least favourite Shrek film. I do not really enjoy this film because it just feels unnecessary. It doesn't move the overall story of the Shrek franchise forward. Say what you will about Shrek the Third, but I am one of its fans. I would say, I'm a fan of Shrek the Third. I don't care what anybody says. I enjoy that film, and one of the reasons I enjoy it because it moves the story forward of the Shrek franchise, whilst Shrek Forever After basically kind of reverses it. I don't really get the point of this film, because in the end, the story of this film completely takes basically completely rips off the story of the Christmas classic It's a Wonderful Life. And if you don't know already, in Christmas in It's a Wonderful Life, James Stewart's character, I forgot his name, it's off the top of my head right now, but James Stewart's character wishes that he never existed, and then he gets to see what his life was like if he never existed. And Shrek gets that in this film. So it's not original, and it doesn't really move the story of Shrek forward. Sure, Shrek understands by the end of the film, he appreciates the people around him more, and he values his life more, but he already kind of did that by the end of Shrek 2. So it feels like we're treading similar ground, and a lot of the themes and messages of this film are spoon-fed to you. Like at one point later on in the movie, Shrek says as he's disappearing from this alternative reality he's ended up in because of his deal with Rumpelstiltskin, he says to Fiona, "You know the best thing about today? I got to fall in love with you all over again." And we're like, yeah, we got that. You know, you don't have to spell that out to us. And then towards the very end of the film, he says to Fiona, I think it's actually the last line in the film, "You know, you also saved me from the castle on that day that I saved you." And I'm like, yeah, we got that in the first Shrek movie, you know? You didn't need to spell it out for us again here. I did not understand the point of the themes and the message in the film. And I just didn't really understand the point of the film. It doesn't move anything forward. This was a Shrek film to me where it really felt like they ran out of ideas. This is the Shrek film where it's like, oh yeah, we don't really know what to do, so why don't we show what it's going to be like if Shrek didn't exist, but there's no purpose to the story, and because there's no purpose to the story and the narrative, what you get, in my opinion, is a rather unengaging film. Not without its merit. Some of the animation in the film is quite, you know, it's not bad to look at. The voice acting is still good for the most part, although this was the one Shrek film where I did feel like Mike Myers was bored of voicing Shrek. There were a couple of moments where I was like, I don't think Mike Myers is hard in the voicing, and I felt like that with the previous 3 films, and I didn't feel like with this movie. But the voice acting, you know, it isn't bad. There were a couple of times I laughed, but nowhere near as much as I wanted to. I did find it funny when Donkey and the dragon faced each other in this alternative reality, and hello, byline, which, you know, hello, is this me you're looking for? I can't sing to save my life, but I did find that funny. Around about the end of the film. Yeah, there were a couple of moments I chuckled, but compared to how much I laughed with the previous 3 Shrek films, I was shocked by how much I didn't laugh with this film. It is remarkably unfunny. And I think that's another one of its biggest problems. The previous 3 Shrek films are all so funny, at least in my opinion. Comedy is a very subjective thing, and you may disagree with me, but I think at the end of the day, the Shrek films are comedies, and if they're funny, they can be the saving grace. I think Shrek the Third has a lot of problems, but it's funny, so it gets away with it. Whilst Shrek Forever After, if it was funny, it would probably get away with everything it's doing. But it's just not that funny. You can feel like it feels like it's trying to be funny, but there were so many moments where I wanted to be laughing, and I found myself not laughing. I found myself confused by the comedy that they were going for. It's almost like they knew their audience from the first film had grown up by 9 years, but they didn't really know how to appeal to them in comedy, and they tried different things, but none of it really worked. Yeah, the comedy in this film was surprisingly unfunny, and that is a big thing when it comes to the Shrek franchise, because these films have got to be funny, and if they are funny, they can get away with so much, but this film just isn't that funny, and because it's not that funny, you start to notice all these problems with the film. And another big problem with this film is the villain. The villain is so annoying, and he's a really terrible villain, and he feels forced. I never really enjoyed the character Rumpelstiltskin when I watched the film growing up, and I thought I was going to feel differently when I watched the film earlier today, but I did not. The villain is incredibly annoying, and not in a way that's fun to watch. Sometimes you can have a villain that's annoying but also fun to watch, or you can have fun villains to watch. You've had that in the previous 3 Shrek films. In the first film, you had Lord Farquaad. He was a joy to watch. So was Prince Charming, and so was the Fairy Godmother in the second two Shrek films, in Shrek 2 and in Shrek the Third. I mean, they weren't a joy to watch, but they were villains you enjoyed watching, you liked, you hated, you love to hate, that's the phrase, I couldn't think of the phrase. You loved to hate, but you don't love to hate the villain in Shrek Forever After, because there's really nothing to him. He's annoying, and I mean annoying with a capital A. I keep going back to that word, because every time he's on screen I was like, can you please not just die already? You are so annoying. It's like, ugh. And a lot of the plot elements in the film, a lot of the big plot points feel contrived, they feel forced, they kind of come out of nowhere. The way that Shrek and Donkey meet the ogre army in the film is really badly done, because they go to the castle where Fiona was supposed to be, then Donkey smells something, and it turns out to be waffles, a plate of waffles in the forest, and then, I mean, it's clearly a trap, but Donkey falls for anyway, that's fine, but then they end up in the sort of ogre forest thing. They end up in this ogre den, or this ogre section of the forest, whatever you want to call it. Let's call it the ogre section of the forest for the sake of this review. And you're going, but you couldn't think of another way to find the ogres in this forest? How about Shrek just ask somebody? Because there's quite a lot of ogres in this film, so it would be understandable that somebody in the world of Shrek knows where these ogres are. But instead they do this really weird way to introduce us to the ogre army. And another problem with this film, talking about the ogre army, you have Puss in Boots there as Fiona's cat, and I quite liked that actually. This time Puss in Boots is Fiona's cat. I thought that was funny, but I did not enjoy any of the fat jokes surrounding Puss in Boots. I think fat jokes are cheap with a capital C. I do not like fat jokes at all. Well, for the most part. Sometimes fat jokes can be a little bit funny, like I didn't mind the fat jokes in Wonka, but the fat jokes in this film just feel like they didn't know what other comedy to resort to. It's like, why are you doing fat jokes on Puss in Boots? Because they don't work, and they just rub you up the wrong way. And yeah, I didn't get the point of the ogre army. Like, that could have been done so much better. Well, I was watching the film thinking, what are we accomplishing from seeing the ogre army? Or the, not ogre, is it? And yes, it's an ogre, yeah. What's the point of us seeing the ogre army? I didn't really get that. I didn't really get the point of the whole narrative. And everything just feels like, everything in this film just feels like this franchise is running out of steam. And the fact is, though, it didn't. I mean, it's not a fact, it's all subjective, but in my opinion, the franchise didn't run out of steam, because even though the Shrek films didn't continue, the Puss in Boots films did, and the Puss in Boots films are spin-offs from the Shrek films. Some characters from Shrek, if I remember correctly, show up in the Puss in Boots movies. I mean, Puss in Boots himself is a character that originated from Shrek 2. So the Shrek franchise didn't end. It carried over with Puss in Boots. You know, a year after this film came out, Puss in Boots came out in 2011, and then 10 years after the first Puss in Boots came out, Puss in Boots The Last Wish, aka Puss in Boots 2, came out. And Puss in Boots 2 showed that the Shrek franchise is far from dead. I mean, I'll talk more about my opinion on Puss in Boots The Last Wish when I get around to reviewing it in the next couple of days to weeks on this channel. But Puss in Boots 2 is a good film. I mean, I'm not even saying it's a really good film. And that showed that the Shrek franchise isn't dead, and that they still had story to tell. But this film makes you think that maybe, you know what, they didn't have story to tell. And it's baffling that they went with this idea. It's like they couldn't think of anything else to do in the fourth Shrek film. You know, clearly at the end of the day, this film was rushed. And it really did feel like a money grab. And, you know, the reality is, all films made in Hollywood are money grabs. Particularly sequels, prequels, or remakes. You know, there's no studio executive sitting around, you know, greenlighting a sequel thinking, you know, guys, we're going to greenlight the sequel, but I hope you make no money from it whatsoever. Let's see if we can make $0 or £0 from this at the global box office, you know? No studio executive is doing that with a greenlight sequels in Hollywood. So, the reality is, most big budget movies you see that come out of Hollywood are money grabs, are cash grabs. But I really don't like it when a film feels like a cash grab. And Shrek Forever After, for me, felt like a cash grab. It felt like it was just being made because, hey, Shrek the Third made money. Clearly this franchise can still make money. So let's rush a sequel out because this film came out 3 years after Shrek the Third. Actually, that's quite a bit of time in animated filmmaking when you think about it. And so you think they'd have a good idea for the fourth film. And it's called Shrek Forever After as well. You think it's going to be the finale of the franchise. And you think it's going to really round everything off in a satisfying way. But I didn't feel that satisfied. I didn't feel that satisfied by the film because we end up in the same place we ended up with Shrek the Third. It doesn't do anything different than we have seen in the previous 3 Shrek movies. And say we will, can't speak in today's podcast apparently, and say we will about Shrek the Third, but that has an end that we hadn't seen in the previous 2 Shrek movies. It moves everything forward, and in my opinion provides a better finale than Shrek Forever After. And that's why I'm actually really excited about Shrek 5. Because I'm hoping it's going to be a better conclusion than Shrek Forever After. I mean, I'm assuming Shrek 5 is going to be the conclusion to the franchise. I might be wrong. Maybe they go and make Shrek 6 and Shrek 7 is Shrek 5 is a success, which I do think it's going to be, by the way. And I know there's already been some backlash over the redesign of the characters. First of all, I don't think that'll be the end. First of all, I don't care about the redesign. I thought it looked fine. I mean, the animation of the Shrek films has never really been its strong suit. You know, I don't watch the animation of the Shrek films and think, wow, this is unlike any other animation I've ever seen before, like I do when I watch an Arden film, you know. But anyway, I'm not really bothered about the redesign of the characters. But even if you are, the reality is they're going to change the redesign of the characters by the time this film comes out. It doesn't come out till Christmas 2026. It doesn't come out for quite a bit of time, so they're going to change the design of these characters. So I don't understand why so many people are freaking out over the redesign of some animated characters. Can we please not just get over it and wait for the film to come out? If the film comes out and you still don't like the way the characters look, that's totally fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But right now, it feels like people are overreacting over nothing. Because it's only, a 30-second little teaser to say that Shrek 5 is in production. And the chances are, because of the backlash, they're going to change the design of the Shrek characters for Shrek 5. So I don't understand why people are going on and on about the redesign of these characters. Because it probably won't be like that by the time the film comes out. And you know what? I am dead excited about Shrek 5 because I want it to be a better end to the Shrek franchise, or a better conclusion, or just a better film than Shrek Forever After. Because Shrek Forever After always just feels like it fizzles out the Shrek story. But I don't feel Shrek deserves that. I feel Shrek should just... I feel that the ending should be better, and I feel like Shrek the Third had a better ending, but because they made a fourth film, it soured the ending of that, and I'm hoping that the fifth Shrek film provides a more satisfying conclusion to the franchise as a whole, if it does end up being the final Shrek film, which I'm not 100% sure it's going to be, but let's say it is for the sake of this review today. So yes, I'm looking forward to Shrek 5 because of how much the fourth Shrek film, Shrek Forever After, disappointed me, because it does disappoint me still so much. They have potential to do something truly satisfying with this film, but instead they go the route of It's a Wonderful Life, and in doing so provide you with a completely pointless narrative that feels pointless when you're watching it, a rather unengaging film because of its lack of a good comedy, and a film with a terrible villain that's annoying to watch and not in a fun way, and an overall film that feels like it's losing steam as it keeps going. You know, the film is like 90 minutes, and this felt like the longest Shrek movie. It felt like it went on for about 2 hours, and that doesn't sound like a big criticism, and perhaps it's not. But the other films all felt like they were 90 minutes, the previous 3 Shrek movies, whilst this one really felt Like it just felt longer, and it didn't feel like it needed to exist. You know? Yeah. I still don't like Shrek Forever After. I actually say it's a rubbish film, and that is why I'm going to say that Shrek Forever After is a... That's why I'm going to say that it's a... You know what? I'm not feeling generous. I'm feeling mean in today's podcast. That's why I'm going to say it's a 2 out of 10. I was going to give it a 3 out of 10, but honestly, I can't think of that much merit when I was watching this film. I didn't think it was unwatchable, you know, but I didn't think it was that entertaining either. Yeah, I really didn't enjoy watching it. I will say one of the best parts of the film is the credits, because over the credits they basically go over the first 2 Shrek movies as the credits are rolling, or the first 3 Shrek movies, should I say, leading up to this 4th film. And I did quite enjoy that, though I did notice when they were going over the events of the 3rd Shrek film, Artie was nowhere to be seen. People must have really hated that character. I mean, I don't hate him. I didn't particularly enjoy watching it, but I didn't think it was a terrible character. But clearly people really hated him because there was no mention of him whatsoever in this film. And that's including the end credits, which go over all the events and show loads of the characters from the first 3 films return. I mean, you don't hear anyone speak, but you see loads of the characters from the first 3 Shrek movies and the events of the first 3 Shrek movies over the end credits, but there's nothing to do with Artie, who is one of the main characters of Shrek the Third. So that did make me laugh, and I don't think of the way the film wanted me to. It's kind of like, wow, people must have really hated Artie from Shrek the Third. Anyway, going back on to what I was saying before, Shrek Forever After is, in my opinion, I don't consider the finale to the Shrek franchise. I consider Shrek the Third the finale. This film just feels like a epilogue that doesn't need to exist. It's pointless. It's dull. Yeah, I didn't say this before in this podcast, but it is dull. The characters feel worn out. The jokes are mostly poor, and the overall film just feels like it's running out of gas from scene to scene to scene to scene. I kind of enjoyed the first 10 minutes of the film. There was a couple of jokes which made me laugh, but I mean, for the so-called final film in the Shrek franchise, for a film that's called Shrek Forever After, you would think that they would go out with a bang. But instead, at least for me, they went out with a whimper. And so, all in all, as what he said, and I was going to say it once more in this podcast today, Shrek Forever After is a 2 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, that's it for today's podcast. If you have seen Shrek Forever After, please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below, and look forward to my review of the first Puss in Boots movie coming within the next couple of days to weeks on this channel, shall we say. But until then guys, thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast, and if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like and subscribe on this podcast, and look forward to many more podcasts and many more videos coming very, very soon on this channel. As I already said, thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast, and I will see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.